Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Campbell, the managing editor of the International Journal of Sports Physical Therapy, and I just wanted to take a second to introduce you to our new clinical excellence program that we are launching officially and are so excited to do so. This has been a long time coming, something that we've been talking about for quite a while, and it's something that we really hope to grow with our partnerships with all of our sponsors over time. We've had the generosity of Hite to kind of step up and initiate this program with us in order to provide some really awesome prize packs and opportunities to reward your clinical success. So I'm looking forward to introducing this first clinical excellence piece from our friends out in Gillette, Wyoming, Randy Hite and his crew at Gillette Physical Therapy. But a little bit more about the program, just to kind of tell you some specifics of what we're looking for. We are looking for clinicians who are in the trenches day to day, don't necessarily have the time or resources to be doing true research studies that require lots of funding, lots of time. Maybe you're seeing some interesting trends with some of the new technology that exists or new treatment techniques. Maybe you guys have come up with something super creative, but you don't really know where to start with it as far as spreading the word or getting the idea out there. So this is a program that's designed for you. If you're a researcher, you can always submit. Again, we're trying to reward clinical excellence, people who have great ideas, things that we need to spread the word about. So we are looking for your submissions on how you're utilizing new techniques and technology out in the field so that we can provide that information to all clinicians and maybe spur some research out of it. So again, these do not have to be formal randomized controlled trials. We just are really looking for different creative and innovative ways that you as clinicians are helping your patients so that everyone who follows IJSPT and hopefully our future reach, that we can get that word out there and help more and more patients. So without further ado, I will take you into our conversation with Randy Hite from Gillette Physical Therapy alongside Eric Fernandez and myself, and we hope that you enjoy. All right, well, welcome to the very first edition of the IJSPT and Hyperice Clinical Excellence Program. I'm excited to be here tonight with Eric Fernandez and Randy Hite. I'm Ashley Campbell, and I'm the managing editor of the International Journal of Sports PT. And we're super excited to kick off this program with this kind of inaugural submission from Randy and his crew, and we're going to get into that here in a few minutes. But I wanted to introduce the program and introduce these guys. So Eric Fernandez is the director of Hyperice's rehab division. Randy Hite is the director of Apex Sports Performance and Sports Medicine in Gillette, Wyoming, and also the owner and co-founder of Gillette Physical Therapy in Gillette, Wyoming. Has a really awesome setup out there that I've had the pleasure to visit this past year and do some clinical education out there. So I'm really excited to get into this discussion. And first I want to start off with how this got started. I'm going to let Eric chime in a little bit on it as well. But this is a program that's been a long time in the making that we've been really excited about launching. And really what we're here to do is bring some good, solid clinical content and more anecdotal type research to the general public, get people's wheels turning, utilizing some different recovery products, and just kind of get people thinking about what directions we could go from a research perspective and the best ways we can help each other as clinicians as well as our patients. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric and let him discuss a little bit more about Hyperice's involvement with IJSPT in this program.
Awesome. Ashley, thank you so much. And really appreciate all the effort putting this together. Just one of many things on your plate, I know. But we're really excited, myself, Hyperice as a whole, really excited to see this program come to fruition and really just the extension of the partnership we have with the IJSPT. I know we were really excited to sign on as a founding partner right from day one, and there were a number of reasons for that, but one of which was really just the mission and the spirit with IJSPT, right? That idea of really putting a premium on timely, relevant research and discussion. And I think that's so key. And looking at the editorial board and everyone who's involved, I mean, you've got some of the best there, who I know are all really focused on innovating patient care. And we felt that was a really special environment and something we wanted to support. And I think as that translates to this program, we're really excited. You know, as an organization, Hyperice is a very mission-driven organization. we've always felt that the quality of life is very intimately connected to movement. We want to try to help everyone on the planet move better and live better. And if you've ever heard me talk, unfortunately, you may have heard me say that before, but it really is true. It's something we care about. And we do that through what we hope is really innovative technology, right? And whether it's our percussion massager, or our compression systems, or everything you guys know about us. But we also feel it's really important not just to provide those products, not just design them and bring them to market, but provide education on how to use them appropriately, and also foster a collaborative environment where we're all learning together. And I think where we're hopefully all raising the bar in terms of what it means to approach your overall wellness, to approach health, to approach rehabilitation in our own small way, of course. So, myself, my team, folks who are sort of part of Hyperice, every day we hear from individual clinicians, from rehab professionals about great results they're getting in different ways they're using percussion and vibration and thermal and everything else. But often, as you sort of said, Ashley, those pieces are isolated in Chicago, or in Wyoming, or in Florida, or wherever else it may be. And so this opportunity to give people a platform to bring those stories, to share them in a collaborative nature, to hear feedback from your amazing editorial board and contributors, and again, continue to foster that environment where everyone's learning together, and where we're also hopefully flushing out really important research opportunities. We see it as just such a huge win. So again, thank you for your hard work. That's, I think, why we're so excited to be a part of this, and really looking forward to hearing what Randy has today, and hearing your questions, and also the community's feedback.
Yeah, we're super excited to kick this off, and we hope that this is the first of many, many great submissions that come from our community. And, really, like you mentioned, and like I said, really, this is an opportunity for those that are getting their hands dirty in the clinic every day. They're not in a lab, not that there's anything wrong with being in a lab, but they don't really have the time, money, or resources to be doing their own, randomized control trials or anything like that. But they're doing some really cool stuff anecdotally in the clinic, and they just don't have the means to get it out there. So, Randy has been, using Hyperice products for a long time. I'm going to let him talk about that. But his clinic in the Apex Sports Medicine facility is just like, it's a dream, with everything you can imagine as far as when it comes to recovery tools and all the gizmos and gadgets and fun stuff for the clinicians and the patients to play with. So, Randy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your practice, and tell us a little bit about how long you've been utilizing percussion devices and recovery products and the Hyperice products, and your involvement there.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Thanks, Eric. Very humbled to be a part of this first run on this. And so we've been in practice 2005 is when GPT first launched, and we just moved into the building that you were able to come out and provide us with some of your intellectual knowledge with Mike. We've been in that building for now going on 6 years. So we've been very blessed in our community. It's if you're looking for a community really to kind of do some advancements in the orthopedic world, I mean, our average age is still under 30. We have a very active community, both on the industrial side and the sports side. So for me, it's just been a dream populace to do orthopedics and sports medicine in. And we've been very blessed. The community's embraced us and allowed us to do that. So, when you talk about all the sexy gadgets, there are a lot out there, and not all of them make sense for everybody in every community, right? But we just found, especially in this case, when Hyperice first started coming out, this kind of stuff makes sense for not only our clinic, but for our community. So I want to say, Eric, probably 4 years now, I think, been kind of going with the Hyperice stuff. And really it started with just my dream to bring a recovery zone to the athletes, to the working population in Gillette. And that's really where it started. And then it kind of morphed from there. We built this really sexy recovery zone, got really popular. It's been great. But then we started to morph it into our performance area. Probably started more on the cool down side. And then we started seeing, okay, well, what about on the warm up side? What about for muscle activation? And from there, we just kind of morphed it over into the clinic. And now it's everywhere in our place. We use it everywhere in our facility. So And we just continue to find every week, we just continue, our brain trust just continues to find different ways to really use it. You know, and at the end of the day, it's safe. You know, we talked about that a little bit earlier, and you know, we always do things on ourselves. I figure PTs, we're our own best lab rats at the end of the day, right? Like, we don't ever try anything on any clients before we've actually performed it all on ourselves as well. So it's kind of fun for us too, as clinicians, to deep dive into it and really get a feel for what all this equipment is truly about.
And I think on that note, one of the things, and I've noticed this a lot, especially in the last year or two, and I think with COVID and people being home and very dependent on figuring out stuff for themselves from in the rehab perspective, that everywhere you look, you're seeing, and you know, way to go, Eric, in your sales and marketing division, but you see Hyperice everywhere. We see every product. You know, I'm a Peloton user. Some of my favorite Peloton instructors use Hyperice products, and they're out there advertising, and some of my other favorites use other products that I'm like, why aren't you know, we need to switch you. No, I'm just kidding. But and everywhere you look, you know, on the sidelines and the dugouts, you know, they got the little Hypervolt holsters, I call them. I mean, just every athlete can just reach down and grab it, and then, you know, during the timeouts, they're on the court doing various stuff. So I think our patients and athletes are getting a ton of exposure to these devices, which is awesome. And I think at the same time, it puts a lot on us as clinicians and patient educators to make sure that transition from clinic to home and appropriate, effective, and efficient use of products is super important, so that they're getting the most out of that. And I think that's a good and a bad thing. And it certainly doesn't replace us as clinicians, but have you seen that in the past couple of years, that people are coming in asking you more about these things? And has that changed how kind of mentally how you incorporate things into home programming or discharge, you know, recommendations?
Yeah, you know, and you're exactly right. I mean, when it came to the performance side of things, social media made it very easy for your athletes to buy into it, because every social media outlet they were on, or every commercial, or every game or whatever, they were seeing the athletes use it, right? So you're exactly right. That was an easy sell on the performance side. On the clinic side, I think it's created a very unique challenge for us as clinicians, right? To, like you said, at the end of the day, we're kind of the trusted experts in musculoskeletal care across that entire continuum. And our patients spend a lot of time with us, so they develop that trust in us. And so what they're now seeing on social media, or what they're seeing in the clinic, in the waiting room, or in the recovery rooms, or whatever, yeah, they have a lot of questions about how effective is this. You know, so I think keeping your clinicians educated on the importance of it and everything that it presents, but also I think the other side of that is giving them an opportunity to use it in the clinic. And we kind of start right in our waiting room, like they're exposed to it right away in our waiting room. And if they're there for a couple minutes, those clinicians those people they have the opportunity to try a back venom on, even though they may not be a back patient, or a Hypervolt, you know, or something like that. They have the opportunity to learn about it right away in the waiting room. So
Great.
Just getting them comfortable.
Well, I want to dive into kind of the reason we're here, which is you guys have been, you know, playing around with a lot of different, we'll call them loosely, I'm going to use the term clinical trial. This is within your clinic. This is non-IRB study, randomized control trial. This is you guys kind of working through some thought processes based on the knowledge you have about neuromodulation that you mentioned that you talked about in your paper, and we'll talk a little bit more here. And I think, you know, again, the really cool thing is this gives us an opportunity to pull from things we already know and are very aware of, and kind of old hat, and kind of dust that off and think about kind of the new school thought process of it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where we're going to talk about 2 little intraclinic trials you have going on utilizing the Hypervolt. Tell us kind of where that started, what was kind of the brainchild behind that, and then we'll kind of get into a few of the details of it.
Sure. Well, I think, you know, we we like to listen to other experts in the field, right? Like the Ashley Campbells and the Michael Voights and the Kevin Wilkes and the Jennifer. I mean, we like to listen to those experts as well and kind of feed off of, hey, what are they doing? You know, I'll give you an example. The M-Trigger biofeedback with the percussion device. We were running studies on the use of NIMS with biofeedback, and can you enhance a learning response a little bit more that way? And so, you know, and then seeing, I think it was Wilkes Group started doing some studies with percussion devices and biofeedback. And so now being able to just play off of that a little bit and compare those two studies. I think you kind of listen to the science a little bit, you listen to the other experts a little bit. I think you play on your experience a little bit and you go with your gut. Yeah. You know, I think those are big parts of it. And fortunately, I've got a team in place that they're really thriving on taking it to the next level and figuring out, okay, what can we play on ourselves here for a couple weeks, and what is going to benefit our clients in what way? And so they're just always pushing themselves to a new level.
Cool. And just briefly kind of walk us through each one. So let's talk about, you mentioned the M-Trigger. For those who don't know, M-Trigger is a very easy to use in-clinic device, quick to set up, inexpensive piece of technology that uses biofeedback right on your iPhone or an iPad, et cetera. Tell us about what exactly you're doing there, like a little bit about kind of the setup of the test, retest, what you're looking at, and what results you're seeing.
Yeah, so we decided to do the neuromuscular deficit test because we were finding great results in using biofeedback, a lot better results than just NIMS on post-operative, post-injury, especially in quad activation. At the end of the day, our results with biofeedback were much greater, especially if we could get them to use a unit at home. It's much more comfortable for the patient. But at the end of the day, we just decided to try, okay, what does it look like from the neuromuscular deficit test side if we do the test, let them return to homeostasis after a 5-minute rest, do 1 minute of hypervolt on the quads to try and facilitate some muscle activation in some areas where those impulses were previously absent, and then repeat the test. And I think our gains right now, we're seeing somewhere between 12 and 25% gains, depending on the individual, the length of time that they were experiencing the inhibition. So, I mean, initially we're seeing some really positive stuff. And, you know, is that a learning response? Could be, you know, but whatever response we're actually getting out of it, if it's from the actual neuromodulation portion of the vibration, if we're getting positive outcomes, we're going to keep rolling with it. So, I mean, there's more to come on that.
And then the other one you're using, you guys have a Techno Gym Treadmill, which for those who aren't familiar, has some options to do some different testing. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there with what specific tests and what you're seeing?
So kind of the same parameters. You know, we're doing a force output test, and then we'll kind of let them return to homeostasis. Whatever side shows a deficit, left or right, on that force output test, then we apply some percussion usage to that extremity again for a minute. And to this point, we've just kind of gone with the quads. And then we're kind of seeing anywhere from 4 to maybe 12, 13% gains in that area as well. So, you know, we're just going to kind of experiment on both the performance side, and also we're still experimenting on the clinical side of your post-operative, post-injury patients.
Sure. And kind of to that point, you guys see quite a variety of both age, skill level, you know, activity level in the clinic. Have you been testing these theories out on a wide range of populations? Are you testing it more on the athletic population? Kind of where's that at with your trials?
Well, we've kind of been testing it across the whole spectrum. So, and at this point, I think it's very applicable across the entire spectrum. You know, one thing, I'll kind of give you one example. For us, I look at it as being very applicable in say, the subacute stage, right? Just it fits the goals of what we're trying to accomplish as clinicians in that subacute stage. So really that patient population, most of those people, this kind of stuff applies. You just have to be very specific and very attentive to if they're sensitive to the vibration or not, what level you want to use it. Sometimes harder and more is not necessarily better or even more effective. as we're finding in these studies, the 30 hertz and 40 hertz is doing just fine for us on the muscle activation side.
Yeah. And I think from my experience clinically, I think a lot of what is occurring again in that subacute stage is that pain modulation factor. Vibration feels nice, right? It's gate control to, if anything. And obviously this is anecdotal on my part, but I specialize in hip. I'm in a hip clinic. I see a lot of things like glute med tendinopathies. And one of the things we do in our clinic is utilize the hypervolt in people who are extremely sensitive to soft tissue mobilization. They don't like to be, they don't want elbows dug in them. They don't even like your thumbs digging in them. We'll sit 30 seconds to a minute with a hypervolt on the lowest setting, just kind of lightly over the lateral tissues. And all of a sudden I can get my hands in there. I can work the tissue better. Their strength improves. And really, again, this is where, I need the Terry Grindstaffs and some of the other lab researchers who do a lot with functional MRIs and things of that nature to get in there and really study what is truly happening. But either way, if we're clinicians and we're getting results, our patients have less pain, better strength, better range of motion, and better function, and it's safe, then I think we're doing our part. And so we see a lot of that. And it sounds like, I think a lot of these principles are interweaved with the trials that you're doing. So, again, one of the biggest things that we want to come of this clinical excellence program is just clinicians feeling more comfortable with use of these newer, to some extent, technologies, knowing when to use it, how to try it, when to kind of just say like, I wonder if this would work, and just test it out. And so I think that you guys have given us a couple really good examples to kind of get the wheels turning, even if you don't have an M trigger, even if you don't have a fancy Techno Gym Treadmill, something as simple as a pre and post test manual muscle test, or pre and post test passive and active range of motion, single leg stance, pre and post test. These are all very simple. You don't need equipment, things that can be done in the clinic, following the same principles of the studies that you guys are trying to do, that I think can be a game changer. And for me, especially, it's getting that patient buy-in in the clinic. So they're all of a sudden they're like, what'd you just do there? Right. And it's nice because you had to be smart enough to know what to do to make that happen. And I think most patients get that, but then all of a sudden they're also like, do I need one of those at home? Would that help me do my home exercises? And you're like, hey, yeah, here's this other device. It's a little less expensive than this, but you could, use it on your muscles before you do your exercises. And I think you're going to get more bang for your buck. And it's like, it helps us all. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really pretty cool. Yeah. Anything else that I have one kind of, for me, I kind of have one last question for you to ponder, but any input that you want to add before I throw that at you, or Eric, any input you have before I toss out one last kind of thought-provoking question?
Well, I was just going to kind of just piggyback on what you just said. No matter if it's an ankle, a knee, a hip, a shoulder, a spine. I mean, you think about all the postural dysfunction in the world today, right? Like everybody's sitting in front of the computers a little bit more. You have the students who sit in class all day. I mean, we try and do a little bit of postural retraining with every one of our clients as kind of part of their warm-up when they first walk into clinic. These devices fit that, right? And pretty soon they start to feel the effects of, wow, I feel really good. And then they start thinking, wow, if I had one of these devices at home, I could feel this good every day. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be directly related to their injury. Sure. You just them how they can do better for themselves and their well-being at home through, even just hitting home the postural stuff. So just a little another tidbit.
Yeah. And obviously, as great as it is to have maybe products available that you can sell, and from a business perspective, that's nice. The bottom line is, in the big picture, if it helps the patient get better faster and stay better longer, that's really what our goal is. And that's one thing I'll add that I really appreciate from the HyperIce perspective. And one of the reasons why I really enjoy using the tools and the products that they have is that's one of their big things. It's not just about like buy more products, sell more products, do more of this, and trying to kind of push that down your throat. Is these programs like this to say, let's educate clinicians so they really understand what the purpose is. Because I'll be the first one to tell you that what, 4 or 5 years ago when these first things came on the market, and I'm not saying the hypervolt, but things that sounded like, blah, 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 you know, this like jackhammer in the corner of the clinic. And you're like, what is that? And I was the first skeptic to be like, that's ridiculous. Who needs that? You know? And I kind of was like, oh, it's the chiropractors and the personal trainers that are doing it and being like my snotty little PT self, and realizing like, okay, they were like 5 steps ahead of me, unfortunately. So as soon as I like got my hands on it, started using it, I'm like, okay, they actually know what's going on. But again, what is it? Just, I broke down and said, all right, show me. And I learned, but I think in a lot of places we need better clinician education so we can better educate our patients. And I just really appreciate the partnership that we've been able to form here. So here's your big last kind of question, and we'll wrap this up. But if there's any laboratory or clinical researchers watching this right now, or watching this later, that have some wheels turning maybe on if they could do a project here, what do you see as a clinician? Is there any particular question or questions that you feel like are super critical to try to get answered with regards to the use of percussion devices specifically? If there were to be like a true randomized control trial done, can you think of one thing in particular?
Kind of hitting hard with the questions tonight, aren't you, Ash?
Hey, I got to give you something challenging.
I know, right? I think that kind of comes from maybe two sides. You have the wearable side, which has the heat and the vibration combined, and then you have the actual just percussion vibration side. We know the effects of heat, and we know what that does, and we know the effects of vibration, we know what that does. But what are the true effects of the combination of that, right? And again, you're exactly right. It's kind of, these are new devices that make it easier for the patient to take a little bit more ownership in their well-being. Mm-hmm. But they're old school thought. They're built in with an old school thought that's been around for years. So combining the heat and combining the vibration, how are we now truly getting the best of both worlds there as far as what the wearables go? So I think it'd be interesting moving forward to figure out what's the actual benefits of heat and vibration combined instead of just standalone.
Yeah.
The percussion side, I think the sky's the limit really for us. From the muscle activation side, from the, like you said, the pain inhibition side. I think the big question is really, we're seeing results, and but to know the why, like truly, what is the why? What's the why? Is it just a learning response, or is it truly that we're getting that pain inhibition, and we're truly waking the neural impulses that were absent? And to what degree are we getting it? Yeah. But for right now, if I'm getting a win-win on the client side, right, I'm going to take the win-win. But I think if you were to really narrow down those two questions, it'd kind of be fun to know the why, the true why.
Yeah, and I think there might be a couple of different whys, and maybe patient dependent. So I think there's a lot of work to be done if we're gonna build out a study related to this. I think there's probably quite a bit of work to be done, and maybe some quite expensive fancy equipment that you and I don't have. So, well, on that note, I will kind of take it back to Eric for any last words regarding this program, any thoughts, and then we'll talk about kind of where you can submit, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Eric, before you jump in, can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
Perfect. On Ash's point, we would be more than willing to take any grants or anything from Hyperice for some really fancy equipment to run these studies for you.
There you go.
There's
always an ask.
Yeah. I feel like by coming to the table today, I set myself up for that ask. So let's dialogue offline. No, but again, we are in all seriousness really excited about this program for a number of reasons. I think these discussions are really powerful, and I know that I learned a lot just listening to you guys and also reading through the submission, Randy, that you put together for this. And I think something that comes to mind is that this is also digestible, right? I think that's so important, right? Time is our most precious resource, and we don't have enough about it. So I'm hopeful that people will see this, they will learn from it, and also perhaps it'll spark some creativity or spark them to submit sort of how they're using percussion, vibration, and some of these tools, what they're thinking about, what they're learning about, because the more we do that together as a community, the better this is going to get, and the more we're going to be able to drive those larger research studies, as well as a better overall result for our patients, and for our community. So again, Randy, super appreciative. Thank you to you, Ashley, as well, and to the IJSPT. This is fun. This is exciting.
Yeah, and again, thank you to Hyperice and to you, Eric, for really helping me get this off the ground. So this is the official announcement of the official start of this program. So you can learn more about this on our website, ijspt.org, under the Clinical Excellence Program, all about what the submission requirements are, with the link to a Google form to fill out to submit. So we'll take rolling submissions through each month. And what we'll do is we'll have a panel of our IJSPT editorial board that's going to be looking at these. There'll be representatives from education, research, and clinical practice taking a look at these and basically kind of selecting one. Right now, probably every other month, moving towards our goal of having at least one a month that we will put out there, do a little roundtable discussion like this, make sure that the clinician gets recognized for all their hard work and efforts. And I think, I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth, but I think there's going to be some pretty cool little fun prizes, if you will, for those who are submitted from the Hyperice team. So there'll be some incentive to get your submission selected. So again, ijspt.org is where you can find more details on that, and make sure to also check out the Hyperice website for more specific information about all of the different tools and technology, as well as some opportunity to get additional, if you're a clinician, additional clinical education. I've been honored to be a part of some of that as well. So there's a lot of resources available out there for you. And on that note, I thank you both and look forward to doing a lot more of this.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
It was a lot of fun.